Welcome back, everyone. This is session 5 of season 4. And before we go on, I need to say something that uh, in previous session I wore a white t-shirt and it kind of looked weird actually. And I don't know if it was only me or I actually looked weird. But anyway, I went and changed my t-shirt and hope this one is good. And so let's get back to the codes that we have. So we have designed this form so far, and we need to use CSS in order to make it pretty. Let's get back to our code and select this general form here, and we can go ahead and actually select this general form here and come back. And this general form is actually, I'm trying to give it a margin. First of all, a margin from top and bottom should be like maybe 50 pixels, and from left and right like 30 pixels. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, come back here, hit refresh, and this is how it looks like. It's a little better, but let's go ahead and actually double this. So 100 pixels and 60 pixels. So let's come back here, let's refresh, put the zoom on 100% again to see how it looks actually. And the first thing that you notice is actually the height of the elements are not nice. We can put it that way. In order to see this is, look at this is an input type and it has a height. And if we can on input type and this input that we have, we can go in computed section and we can see actually the height of this element is actually about 46 pixels. So that's what I'm going to do. Go inside my codes and I'm going to select I'm not trying to select all the inputs because these inputs are good. I'm not going to select these checkboxes and radio boxes. I'm just going to select these inputs. So the inputs that are inside this inputs section. So let's search inputs, and this is the labels, and we can go ahead and duplicate this. And I'm going to select every input inside this part here. So I'm going to set the height on 46 pixels, and let's come back here, hit refresh, and as you can see this is good now. Another thing that we need to fix that when your user types something in this, you can see that it's not optimized and it doesn't look good because it should have a padding from around itself. So we can go ahead and actually use a padding here. And the padding from top and bottom 5 pixels, but from left and right should be like something 15 pixels. So come back here, hit refresh, and this is how it looks like, and it's a little better. And these labels that we have here, we need to actually come back and give it another thing, and I'm going to give it a margin from bottom, and the margin from bottom should be like, for example, 8 pixels, for example. Let's come back here, hit refresh, and the margin bottom is not being applied. And do you know why? If you remember the previous season, because the displays, let's set the display, for example, the display to for example block here, and as you can see now the margin is being applied here. Okay, so we should set the display to block or inline block as well. I covered the reason why in previous seasons, so I'm not going to cover it once more. So I'm going to set the display to block or inline block, but they both right. And now you can see it's okay. And there's another thing, I need to fix a font. So you can go ahead and search Google fonts, okay, and we are going to use a font called, for example, Railway. Let's use this Railway, Google Fonts Railway. So we need to I want to add this Railway font in my CSS, so we can use this link tag or we can use this import tag inside our CSS section. So I'm going to use this import tag in my CSS section. So this is it, and let's use some comments inside our CSS codes so that we can, so this is this would be adding fonts. Okay, and I comment this here. So hit Control/, comment this, and this section is our general selectors, and let's comment that as well. And this part would be our form customizations. So now that we have used this, sorry, it is Poppins. Let's just replace the Poppins with railway. Okay, and hit Control-C, and the body, we can go ahead and select our body, and the font family should be on railway. So we included this font just the previous season, and now the fonts are fixed and we have a better font here. And the font weights that is being included, the 400, 600 and 700. So for the labels, actually for these labels, I'm going to use font weight of 600. So when we use the font weight 600, what happens is it's become a little bolder, and this is a little better. And for this railway, let's not include this 400 anymore, and we can only include this 600 and 700 weights. And this is it, and we can actually go ahead and use 800. So this is 800. So we included them, and now I think it's a little better. In something that, but for this select box, this is something that we forgot to set the height on 46 pixels. So this is it. So we can go ahead here and select the select tag as well. Okay, come back here, hit refresh, and this is how it looks. But we may miss, yes, instead of comma, I use dot. It's comma, should be comma here. Hit refresh, and now it's everything is fixed. Another thing that we need to fix is actually the border of these inputs that we have. The inputs here and the select that we have should have a border of 2 pixels solid. For now we use red, but we need to actually use a color palette. We can just go ahead and randomly use any color that we like. We need to have a color palette. So let's search. We can go inside this coolors.co, a website. This website provides so many different color palettes, and we can actually use a color palette inside our project here. The color palette that we are going to use, let's go explore trending palettes, and inside our CSS section here, inside our root section here, we can go ahead and inside this root section, we can define our variables or constants, whatever you name it. Let's come back here. And this is the color palette that I like to use. So this would be our primary color. Let's copy that. This would be our primary, and let's get back to this here. This is our secondary. Control-Shift-D to duplicate this line. The secondary, and our tertiary, and this would be our tertiary, our light, and our danger. I call the last one danger because for errors, displaying errors or things like that, when something goes wrong, you need to have a red color in your palette usually. So these are the variables that I have defined, and for these inputs that I have here, I'm going to set a color for that, and the color that I like to use is actually our secondary. So I can go ahead here and use var, and the var is secondary. The secondary is what I'm trying to use here. Let's zoom a little even more for those with smaller screens, and let's come back here and give it a border radius to these selects or anything that we have. Border radius, something around, for example, 8 pixels. Come back here, hit refresh, and this is our 8 pixels. And when user focuses on these inputs, we can go ahead and actually select these, and we need to have this, hold the Alt key and double click. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong place. Okay, and when it's focused, we need to first of all set the outline to none. In previous season I covered this outline. Why do we do that? And the other thing, I'm going to change the border color. Border color. The border color should be set on I'm going to set that on the primary thing that we have. Okay, color, so var primary. So when the user focuses on that, we need to change the color, and the color is being changed actually, and it's not very visible. So let's change this secondary to tertiary, and hit refresh, and this is it. Now it's actually feelable, and user understands it. And the labels, actually I'm going to use a color for these labels. I'm going to set the color on primary, our primary color, and this is it. And for the other labels here, actually here, I'm going to set that on primary here, hit refresh, and this is it. It's a little better for now, and we have made it a little better for now, but we need to make it very good, even better than this. So we can go ahead and select our body and give it a background color of var our light color, and usually it's recommended not to use absolute white or absolute black in your projects. So that's why I'm going to set that to that light, and in this general form that we have, I'm going to set a background color of white, but we are not going to use absolute white or absolute. For this absolute white is this this FFF, but this is not a absolute white. So let's see another color. Let's use the color picker of the browser itself. So this F5 is not absolute white, and this is something that I'm trying to use here. So come back here, hit refresh, and this is what we have here. And we can actually go ahead and replace these two, because the background color is green, but this is black. So we can go ahead and change these two with each other. For example, let's define another color, and I call it our white. This is our what our white looks like. We should not use absolute white. It's better not to use that. And for this, I'm going to actually use the light, and rather than light, I'm going to use light green, because it's actually light green. Okay, and this is it. And for this, I'm going to use our white here for the body, our white, and come back here, hit refresh, and I think this is a little, maybe a little better, arguably a little better. So that's why we developers should not design the page with ourselves. That's why UI UX designer, they are very good at their job. For example, let's see here. I know how to code. I am good at coding, but I actually don't know what color to use here, how much padding to use. These stuff you see I'm not good at, and it's actually okay, because I'm not a UI UX designer. So this is what happens when user gives us something in a piece of paper or something like that. We end up not having a perfect result. Although this is something good, this looks decent, but for now we continue with this that what we have here, but we may come back in future and fix it and make it a little nicer than this. So this is it, and I'm going to give it a padding here, and the padding should be like, for example, maybe 36 pixels, maybe. Let's come back here, hit refresh, and this is what happens. And I'm going to give it a back border, another border here. I'm going to set the border on 3 pixels, solid, and the color that I'm going to use is actually the tertiary that I'm going to use, var tertiary. So that's why we should always cooperate with a UI UX designer, because when a developer himself tries to design something, well, it kind of looks decent, but a UI UX designer will come and blow you off and design something very much better than what we have designed so far. So that's why UI UX designers are good people, and you should treat them with respect. So come back here, hit refresh, and we give it another border radius, and the border radius should be like 12 pixels. Come back here, hit refresh, and this is it. This is what we have designed so far, and we can come back and make it better in the next session, but it kind of looks decent, at least to me. This is it. That's enough for this session, and hope to see you in the next one.